things related to our topic. I think you've
Okay.
been having this sort of nightmare that is called IELTS, and you've been
Yes.
trying to get this test as soon as possible.
Yes.
And I really think that this is a good opportunity to you to get this test as soon as possible. Once you have the chance to do that, and be able to uh, give it a good try this time, because we've been talking a lot about this test, and trying to cover as many themes and as many um, aspects of the test as possible.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about this test. Like, what are your preparations to this test so far?
Yes. Okay.
Do you hear me?
Hello? Yes. Okay.
I asked, what are your preparations for this test particularly?
Actually, I do practice a lot so as to be prepared for the actual test,
Mm-hmm.
uh, especially with listening because there is a timetable for it and also reading.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but my dilemma is with writing because I'm not familiar with the academic writing, especially in a lot of topics that's not related to my specialty. And also speaking need a lot of practice because there are also a lot of topics that are not related to my specialty.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think I have to focus only on writing and speaking. I think we've covered all the important things that related to reading and listening.
Well, I really think that there is really steady progress
Mm,
over the past few months with your speaking and with your writing. And I
mm,
don't think you should ever, never, never, ever underestimate the skills of writing that you do have.
okay.
Well, what's missing is probably lack of consistent amount of practice for
Mm,
this particular type of
mm,
activities. And we've already talked about that writing is a more of a process
mm,
than a product.
okay.
So uh, when we talk about the art of writing, we're talking about somebody who's trying to carve a statue out of
Mm,
rock,
okay.
and it's a piece of rock thrown in the desert. You bring your hammer, or you bring um, your nail, and start carving little by little to get to the final shape. And in order to get to that part, you need
Mm,
to exert lots of effort. You need to
yes, of course.
suffer. You need
Yes.
to go through many hurdles. And
Okay.
respectively, this process is going to reshape your style of writing. And
Mm,
writing is very interlinked to
mm,
reading. So if we do
yes.
not have a good consistent amount of
Yes.
reading on a daily basis and
Yes.
monthly basis,
Mm,
like on average, the person who's planning to take the IELTS should read at least one to five books about different topics
mm,
before he goes to take the test. Why?
mm,
Because reading reshapes the person's perception of the written language. The kind of writing we come across in books is drastically
mm,
different from that one we see and hear people talk about. So
yes.
when you go when you hear people talking, they are interchanging information using shortened versions,
Mm,
truncated version of writing.
mm,
But if we convert that into writing, that's not going to make the same sense, because it's a combination of body gestures, eye
yes.
contact,
Yes.
intonation, stress
Mm,
here and there, and sometimes what is said is not directly meaning what is intended.
Mm.
But in writing, we need to translate everything we say into written version. And in order to get to that satisfactory level, you need to exert some effort.
Okay.
But the good, that's the news. The good
Yeah.
news, IELTS follows a specific standard formula that
Mm.
is not quite challenging. It's only 300 maximum words
Mm.
for task number 2 and 120 for task number 1, which is describing a graph
Mm.
or a scheme of some sort. But generally speaking, this does not mean that we should go to IELTS without preparation.
Yes.
So you mentioned that you've been struggling with particularly writing.
Yes.
In your own way, in your own um, words,
Yes.
where do you think the struggle keep coming from?
Yes. At first, as you said, that I have uh, to be more specific with my introduction and surprise the reader. So my introduction must be strong, and I have to rephrase the question of the examiner,
Mhm.
and I have to connect my paragraphs, the main body, and also to be objective with my writing.
Mhm.
So I think I need a lot of time to build such an essay for within the time limit. So
Um,
that's my problem.
I think that the problem with IELTS, it's not a problem. Like when I say a problem, it means
Hmm.
it gives negative impression to people.
Yes.
So it's
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
um,
The issue.
and
Yeah.
that should not be said. I think you need to be treated with the placebo style of medicine here.
Yes.
You heard about it, right?
Yes. Of course.
Okay, perfect. So, when I'm talking about IELTS writing, I'm talking about something that can be consistently following a formula, and the
Hmm.
formula is very straightforward.
Hmm.
Like for example, let's because I do believe that it's not a matter of time as much as it is a matter of consistent amount of practice.
Hmm. Okay.
So the point is more of
Practice.
something that is relevant to practice
Yes.
than something that is kind of relevant to another perspective.
Hmm.
Anyways, um, I'm talking about certain kind of formula that is
Hmm.
out there that is straightforward, like this one
Hmm.
here. I'm sending it to you. Let me
Okay.
uh, let me just forward it directly here. Now, this is a sample that was written for task 2. I want you to download. What do you notice about this formula? It's very, very simple. The question is, do you
Hmm.
agree that the advantages cars bring outweigh the disadvantages? By the way, there was one mistake out there, which is outweigh was repeated twice.
Hmm.
I've highlighted few things,
Yes.
few key things in this essay. I want you to look at the green font
Okay.
uh, and tell me what they are and how are they related to the concept of task completion. How do they
Hmm.
contribute to task completion, cohesion and coherence,
Hmm.
grammatical range, and lexical diversity?
Okay. The
These
green
are,
or
the
the
green
green?
one.
Yes.
The
Okay.
green ones.
Hmm.
But since you do not remember the 4 categories that I already mentioned here by which you are going to be assessed
Hmm.
by IELTS examiner,
Hmm.
I want you to generally, based on your experience, tell me what these things are.
Hmm. Uh, on one hand, here I am giving uh, my my opinion
Mhm.
for the first when it said I strongly believe. So now he's comparing. The first reason, so for task completion, I think he give his answer if he agree or disagree.
Okay, so
Uh,
that is technically called statement. So he's
yes, yes, yes,
presenting his
yes,
statement
yes.
to the examiner.
Mm, mm.
I think when it comes to writing, there's something quite interesting, which is um, you're just showing off تتباهى by the academic style that you have.
Yes.
And in order to do so, you
Mm,
throw as many academic formal words that are
of
not
course,
familiar
of
and
course.
used commonly in
Mm,
English, and
mm.
that's
Yes.
that is what creates the positive impression. And our 60 to 70% of investment is on the first paragraph, because
Of course.
essays are evaluated by human beings,
Mm,
and we are human. We
mm,
get first impression from the
mm,
first
mm.
time we meet
Yes.
people or read.
Mm,
Like, have you been in this situation where you read the first um, page of certain book you
yes,
come
yes,
across,
yes,
you get
yes.
either positive
They
or
impress
negative
you,
impression about it?
so they give you the incentive to complete the book. Yes. Sometimes the
I
first
love the
pages.
word incentive that you
Mm,
mentioned.
mm,
This is going to catapult your essay to
mm,
sky if you write it down there when you're practicing in the 40 minutes. I think
mm,
it's a matter of time constraint.
mm,
The 40 minutes feels like a marathon, uh,
yeah.
but once you understand the
Mm,
question clearly and what the examiner wants, you would
yeah.
definitely be able to
Mm,
break it down into the four major categories, which are task completion, cohesion and coherence,
mm,
grammatical range, lexical diversity, and focus on
mm,
these, but focus on them from the lens of a person who's trying to impress people by his artistic writing,
mm,
his control of grammar and tenses, and keep in mind that you should not repeat things again and again.
of course.
Um, and always read the question 3 or 4 times
Mm,
and try in 2 to 3 minutes respond as if you are talking.
mm,
So, like for example, I read this. Now, lots of people just jump and start writing without putting it on a structure.
mm.
Um, you remember the video link that I sent you? Me discussing the structure of IELTS writing and what you should write and what you
Yes,
should
yes,
do.
yes.
The last one, the latest.
Mm, yes.
Now, one of the major things that we oversee as Arab learners of English
Yes.
is that we directly dive into writing process without
Mm,
even thinking about what we are going to write. Um, Native speakers, on the other hand, structure a model and
mm,
fill this model with the kind of content that comes spilled out of their mind. And that is
mm,
where the difference is,
mm,
that lots of times native speakers excel not because they have outsmarted other people or non-native speakers. No, they just have a vision. They
mm.
create a structure or framework and work
Yes.
according to
Build.
that framework.
Yes, yes. I
When
built
we look
an
at
essay
this,
according to that.
perfect. So when
Mm,
you look at this framework here in this
mm,
essay, we see on the one hand, well, first of all, he says, I strongly believe
mm,
that the advantages of the car can outweigh its disadvantages. He made a
mm,
mistake here. He didn't say disadvantages. In the yellow, the first paragraph. And
yes.
put on
But
the one
here,
hand.
but here,
Secondly,
we cannot
and then
say that the same phrase.
هو ارتكب خطأ. هو كاتب
Mm,
advantages, المفروض يكتب disadvantages.
mm. But also you have to rephrase the question.
He did that
Mm,
when he says, "Do you agree that the advantages cars bring outweigh the disadvantages?" What he said,
mm,
using cars has been becoming increasingly common in recent years, although I think that it maintains some obvious harmful consequences. So بدل ما يقول advantages disadvantages كاتب obvious
consequence.
harmful consequences. عكس I strongly believe that the advantages اللي هي هنا اللي بالبداية ومجرد إعادة صياغة. بس احنا نتحدث عن structure، نتحدث عن on hand بعدين secondly on the other hand many reasons وكاتب لك many reasons firstly secondly كاتب لك therefore for instance and finally بالأخير كاتب لك in conclusion. The point that I want to convey to you here, just follow this sample. And by the way, you do not have to reach 300 words limit. You can write 260, 270 words, and that is going to be very satisfactory to the evaluator. Since it just satisfied all the conditions of getting you 8 or 8.5. I don't think that your writing style gets 6 or 6.5. I think your level is, significantly better than the 6.5 probably that other people get in this sort of tests. Anyways, that's my idea. I don't know what IELTS examiners are going to think, especially if there's only one person attending the IELTS test. What did you learn, by the way? What did you learn from that kind of experience here, traveling to Dubai to take the test and going through this difficulties of COVID and challenges of getting to the test?
When all the other students failed to come, I felt that I'm strong. On the listening, I took control of everything, but on reading, I get through some hurdles, but finally I managed to overcome them. On writing, I felt very calm because I built a framework for my answer, but I don't know why they gave me. I made some mistakes with spelling, but I tried to impress the examiner. I said I wrote pervasive and a lot of unfamiliar vocabularies, but I don't know why I took 6.5.
Well, maybe he was sad because only one person attended that sort of test that wanted to retaliate by dropping your score down. I don't know, like human behavior is really unpredictable, and lots of things backfire, ricochet, things that are planned. We always say, hope for the best, prepare for the worst.
Of course.
And this is where we're trying to, come up with a sort of model on which just follow, because it's always good to go to take such a test and have a model in mind. I was reading in one of the books. I can send it to you to have a look at it. It's not a perfect book. And it talks about task 2. I'm uploading the book to you here to just have a look at it, but you are not obligated to read it. There's no obligation. I'm just giving you this book. Just I'm taking some samples from this book where they talk about what they wrote, what readers and writers wrote in that test. They provide model examples, and I'm using that to give it to you. So this sample is from another book, but I think always it's a good idea to go with a simple model. You know, when imagine you have two products. One has been working 100% or 99% perfect over the 10 years, and a new model that just came this year,
Yeah.
and it shows really high, significant, better results, but it has not been used and adopted by medical agencies. Which one
Mm.
do you go for?
Sorry.
I said if you are offered two models, one
Mm.
is very simple and has worked over the past 10 years. Do you hear me?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And the other model is something that just came out this year and it has not been adopted by medical agencies, but it showed better value and better results. Which one do you choose? The one that has worked for the past 10 years on patients, or the one that has been already tried and released by the laboratories?
No, I will choose the first one because it have been used for a lot of years and it's simple also.
Okay, so that's
Mhm.
because of reliability factor
Yes,
and
of course.
practicality
Yes.
factors.
Yes.
So it's reliable because it
Mm.
showed high value
Mm.
reliability over the
Mm.
past years, and
Mm.
it
Mm.
just
And there are a lot
customer
of studies
satisfaction.
about
Huh?
this. There were a lot of studies and about it, so I
Tell me
have to
about it.
choose it.
Tell me about it. I would like to hear your insights about that part.
Yes, because when you try to choose something, you have uh, to read a lot of articles about it to make
Hmm.
the right decision. So if it's new without any uh, supporting studies, it will be difficult to choose such type of things.
Hmm.
Mm.
It's well, we say it's not generalizable
Mm.
because it hasn't gotten or got
Mm.
high customer satisfaction level,
Mm.
and that may not reflect good customer satisfaction eventually if you apply and it does not work.
Mm.
Anyways, so the model that I'm presenting to you here is
Yes.
very simple. Let's say
Yes.
it's very simple. It's not challenging.
Mm.
And the reason I chose it, it's just because it gives us an impression that this is not something impossible. It's
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
straightforward. It's
Mm.
very easy.
Mm.
So tonight,
Mm.
what I'm thinking about is try this strategy where you answer my question. Like
Yes.
this is a question. Let's imagine that this is a speaking question, not
Okay.
written question.
Okay.
And when I imagine that I ask you, and this is what you need to do in the test. You have around
Mm.
5 minutes of preparation in
Mm.
the beginning. What you need to do is simply imagine that you're speaking about this to somebody. So you say, "Well, do you agree that the advantages cars bring outweigh the disadvantage?" You need to rephrase it.
Mm.
We It has been agreed
Mm.
in society that there are certain
Mm.
weak points and strong points
Mm.
um, to the use of cars
Mm.
in transportation. Firstly, or in the beginning, and
Mm.
then secondly, and
Mm.
in addition to that, there are other reasons or there are other proponents who say something against that, and then later on the one hand, on the other hand, and in conclusion, this
Mm.
will pre- prep your mind subconsciously to be ready to structure this thought written wise.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know if it works with you. It works with me.
Mm. Okay.
It really works with me, and I really adopt this kind of strategy or
Mm.
stratagem when I take the tests.
Mm. Okay.
So let me ask you the question again, and let's
Okay.
elaborate a little bit about it. Like,
Okay.
do you agree that people should use many cars? I'm rephrasing the question. Do you
Mm.
think it's a good idea that everybody drives a car in Baghdad? What do you think are the advantages and disadvantages now?
Mm. Yeah. Yes. Nowadays there are a lot of cars in Baghdad and become more pervasive. But this increased number has created a lot of problems, especially with the traffic congestion. But on the other hand, it can help people to go to their work and to do a lot of tasks throughout the day without a lot of effort. First of all, it can be advantageous to people to use car and it can help them to do a lot of duties. Um, Also, secondly, it can make life easy for people to get contact with their relatives and for transportation. On the other hand, it may create a lot of crowding and traffic jams in the city, especially when there are a lot of population, and it also can create obesity with in the community because we are do not do any practice and we are only relying on cars.
Okay, I love what you already said so far, and I really
Mm,
think it's a good value,
mm,
speaking wise. When
yes.
it comes to convert that into writing, now when we
Mm,
talked about that, we just wanted to create a structure. So
yes.
in the first
Mm,
introduction, you just gave
mm,
me a good statement,
mm,
and after that, you started talking about obesity, which
mm,
can be it can be a paragraph
yes.
in and out of itself, and you can talk about traffic
Mm,
as a potential
mm,
side effect to
yes.
using many cars. But
Mm,
on the on the advantage side, you
yes.
can mention that people started using more cars due to COVID-19 in order
Yeah.
not to
Okay.
contract the
Yes.
virus, and that
Yes.
something can be on the positive scale,
Yes.
not
Yes.
on the
Of course.
negative scale.
Yes. Of
Um,
course.
and you can write a little bit about it, either
Mm,
one or two sentences,
mm,
and you sum up that kind of uh, chat or that kind
mm,
of talk
mm,
by elaborating more on the